Today, let us have a look into history of journalism in India. The first newspaper which was printed in India was by James Augustus Hickey, and the newspaper is Bengal Gazette. It was also named as Calcutta General Advertiser, and it was in the year 1780. However, the paper lasted for just 2 years because the British administration in 1782 seized it for its criticism of the British Raj. So Bengal Gazette announced itself as a weekly political and commercial paper, and it was open to all the parties but influenced by none. And how did it look? It was a 2-sheet paper measuring 12 inches by 8 inches. Most of the space being occupied by advertisements. That was how it was in the beginning. And it could reach a circulation of 200 copies. Within 6 years of Bengal Gazette, 4 more weeklies were launched in Kolkata. Simultaneously, Madras Courier was launched in 1782 and Bombay Herald in 1791. And Bombay Courier was launched in 1792, but in 1799, the East India administration passed regulations to increase its control over the press. And that was the reason for the disruption in the peace in the field of journalism. So journalism was affected. But the first newspaper under Indian administration appeared almost 17 years. That was in 1860. And it was also called Bengal Gazette, and it was published by Gangadhar Bhattacharjee and was a liberal paper. And it advocated the reforms of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And Raja Ram Mohan Roy brought out a magazine in Persian called Mirat ul Ukhbar. And he also published the Brahmanical magazine, an English periodical to counteract the religious propaganda of the Christian missionaries of Serampore. In 1822, the Chandrika Samachar was started in Bengal. The year of 1830 to 1857 saw a large number of short-lived newspapers in major Indian languages like Bengali, Gujarati, Marathi, Urdu, and Persian. By 1857, which caused the divide between Indian-owned and British-owned newspapers during the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the Gagging Act had been passed by Lord Canning, which sought to regulate the establishment of printing presses and to restrain the tone of all printed matter. After 1857, the pioneering efforts in newspaper shifted from Bengal to Mumbai. So now Mumbai became the center of journalism. In 1861, Mr. Knight merged the Bombay Standard, Bombay Times and Telegraph and brought out the first issue of Times of India. In 1875, he started Indian Statesman, now known as the Statesman. Around the same time, Amrita Bazar Patrika was able to establish itself in Kolkata. Starting out as a vernacular paper, it was constantly in trouble due to its outspokenness. In order to circumvent the strict provision of the Vernacular Press Act in 1876, intended to prevent the vernacular press from expressing criticism of British policies, Amrita Bazar Patrika converted into an English newspaper. Amrita Bazar Patrika inspired freedom fighter Lokmanya Tilak to start Kesari in Pune, which he used to build anti-cow killing societies and reviewing the Chhatrapati Shivaji cult. He used mass communication as a powerful political weapon, something politicians of the 21st century have quickly learned. By 1905, the English and vernacular press had become pretty professional. In 1920s and 1930s, saw newspapers that reflected popular political opinion. While big English dailies were loyal to the British government, the vernacular press was strongly nationalist. Nehru started the Independent of Lucknow as a newspaper of extreme Indian opinion. The Home Rule Party started Young India, which later became Mahatma Gandhi's mouthpiece. As more and more Indians started learning English, many became reporters, editors, and even owners. The Anglo-Indian press began to lose ground, except in Bombay and Calcutta. In 1927, industrialist G.D. Birla took over the infamous Hindustan Times and placed it on a sound financial. In the post-independence era, the press enjoyed a large measure of freedom because Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, was a liberal who realized that for the successful functioning of democratic setup, the freedom of the press was crucial. Although Nehru was a liberal and believed in freedom of the press, but he was forced to enact laws curbing freedom of the press after independence in order to check increasing writings with communal overtone. So he found that the press was contributing to the already difficult situation created by the partition of India on communal lines. On October 23, 1951, he got new act passed called the Press Objectionable Matters Act, which was a reflection of Nehru's concern over the newspaper's role in rousing communal discontent in India. Objectionable matters, including any words, signs, or visible representations which were likely to incite or encourage any person to resort to violence or sabotage for the purpose of overthrowing or undermining the government. However, during Indira Gandhi's regime, she expected that the press should blindly support her government without questioning her ability to deliver the goods. In 1971, the government led by Mrs. Gandhi made its first attempt to control the press when her own Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Indira Gandhi's son, Rajiv Gandhi, became Prime Minister after the assassination of his mother in 1984. He had a smooth relationship with the public and the press for the first few years. So that is the end of today's class. Thank you.